when you have impactful conversations and you're intentional with every person that you talk to, that you'll naturally find a mentor.
Welcome back to The Authentic Edge. This week we have DeAmber Patterson, who is a dear friend of mine and mentee. And today we're going to be talking about the dynamics of mentorship and getting out of your comfort zone with respects to mentees and mentors. So DeAmber, so good to see you. How about you tell me a little bit about what's been going on with you?
Absolutely. It's so good to see you too, Jason. I'm so honored to be on this podcast with you and Paul today. I actually own a company now, which is crazy to even say. And everyone will understand later on as we talk about where we started together and just a lot of the things that I dealt with as a mentee and the things that you've helped me with. But now I own a company. It's called Med Excellence Consulting. And what we do is we work with different products in the medical device space, specifically within wound care. So a lot of our clients see patients that are Medicare Part B, more so in the elder population. And some of them have different wounds that need healing, and they need healing quickly. So there's been a lot of cool research within the human tissue space, and there's different products that they're able to apply onto their patients now that will literally soak up into their skin and rejuvenate them so that they're not constantly having to go to wound care centers and get seen over and over and over until the next stage of their life. We want them healed, and we want them to be able to have a good quality life so that they can spend as much time with their families and not feel embarrassed through the things that they're going through. But I'm just really passionate. Everything that I do, especially from a sales standpoint, it has to have a purpose behind it, and it has to have a mission of helping people, because if it doesn't, then I kind of get lost in why am I doing it, which I know you already know that about me.
Makes a lot of sense. And so help me understand how you ended up here, because obviously we met 4 years ago at Ronstadt, had a really good mentorship, and it doesn't really surprise me that you're off on your own. So that's something that I recognized in you very soon. But tell me about that. Tell me about that journey.
Yeah, I would say from a corporate standpoint, I started in staffing. So before I went to Ronstadt, I was working for a different company, staffing in the occupational therapy space and physical therapy, and then a little bit of psychology and sociology. And I actually had my first ever mentor at that company. But it was very like a commission focused mentorship. It was not someone that was like, oh, I see something in you, I want to mentor you. It was, oh, I know that you're going to generate great commissions, and I get this kind of tier thing with that. And so the motivation was always financial. So that didn't really go that far. But from there, I was actually reached out on LinkedIn to go over to Ronstadt Life Sciences, and you were the person that interviewed me for this role. And I believe my boss at the time was like, hey, I need you to just, hop on a call with this girl and let me know what you think about her. And so from that, you and I actually ended up going way over on interview time and really like digging deep into what do you want to do with your career? And I'm sitting there and I'm just like, sir, I just need a job. Like, I need a job. I know that I can do it, and I know that I can come in and help the team in some type of way. So, and I know we'll probably go deeper later into that conversation, but I instantly clicked with you and like just wanted to learn more about just how to build yourself up as a professional aside from attaching yourself to a company, because I used to always represent companies and be their cheerleader and be the very best employee there is. And I never really thought about, well, what does DeAmber want to do? What do I see for myself? So, fast forward, I stayed at Ronstadt for two years and a few months, and it was time to transition from there and went to another staffing company. And the model there was really just getting out in the field. And, during COVID, you couldn't do any of that. So I was all selling virtually for a long time. And so as we're getting back out in the field and I'm meeting people, I just was thinking, like, I could do this myself. Like, I could go and meet people, network, go to different events. I could put on dinners. I could do it all. I didn't have to have a company that I worked under to do it. But then, those doubts come in your mind where you're like, oh, well, how will I financially support myself before I get clients? How will I let people know that a new company is just as credible? How do I not come off as a sharky salesperson that is money hungry? Like, all of these things came up, and I had a really hard day one day. Honestly, to be transparent, I had a client be very inappropriate to me. That's what happened. And I called my mom and I'm crying my eyes out. I'm like, I just want to make this sale, but I don't want to compromise my morals. And she was actually already in the wound care space under her own company, ProMed Consulting, but she was in mobile wound care. And those doctors go out and see patients in home. And I'm a very product focused person. Even in staffing, the product is people. So I understood it very well. And I was like, well, what if I switch over to just selling product and really getting deep into how it helps people and the educational side of everything? So she pretty much was just like, I've got you 100%. Go and see what you do in the next 3 months and we can figure it out. So the first 3 months of me selling, I didn't operate under my own company. I was under her company. And I just absolutely fell in love with mostly the clients and the ones that really love their patients. And so then my ideas are growing more and more. And I'm like, okay, now it's time to see what more I can do in this space. And so I did create a business model where the heart of it is people and people that need help with something. And I have a solution where I can make a difference for those people. And as long as they're at the heart of that, I can do wound care. Now we're going to be doing exosomes, which is like a stem cell product. Boom, there's another branch. And so as long as I have people and they're my focus, I can always branch out into more products and keep things going. And I hope to build a staff, in the next couple of years and have a ton of people out selling. But right now, I think it's really important as a leader in general to master it yourself. And I've told you this before too. I have had leadership that would never go out in the field, would never talk to clients. Like, that's just not your thing anymore. And I don't want to be that type of leader. I want to be the one that knows what's going on in the market. And when I'm able to add a staff, eventually they will be able to see that and model that behavior and go out and hopefully build their own businesses. So
love it. Such an inspiring story.
Thank you.
If I remember correctly, there was a side hustle in the flower business.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out there. I think, I've started my floral business maybe about 6 months before I left Ronstadt. And honestly, it was because I was burned out and I needed an outlet. I needed something that I enjoyed that had nothing to do with my work, because it was just work, work, work. And no one was working me that hard. So I wouldn't be like, no one was like, you need to work this hard. It was, my mindset was like, you work hard, you will see results. But you may see those results, but you're going to be so tired, you're not going to be able to enjoy anything that you worked for. And I had to say, hey, hello there. You've got to slow down.
I remember the conversation specifically. So that was one that I absolutely was like, she's got to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's take it back a little bit. Let's go back to that phone call, that fateful phone call when I was asked to vet this new salesperson who's got a lot of potential. And why don't you walk me through your perception of that?
Yeah, I will say I probably had gone through a couple of other interviews. I actually interviewed with two other teams at Ronstadt, which was a cool model how you can interview on separate teams. And I was just thinking that maybe I was not qualified. I had 1 full year of experience in staffing, but before that, I did operations management and retail. For a while, and I knew that I knew how to manage a day. I knew how to set up my desk. And I honestly was very successful at the company I was at that I was leaving. So, but I still was like, well, they don't know that. On my resume, all you know is that I have been at that company for 1 year. And I did a lot in that year, but that was an outlier thing. That was not, everybody wasn't doing as much in a year. So all I was thinking about is I have to prove to Jason that I'm capable. And I wanted to make sure I said the right words and that I also sounded like a go-getter.
So I remember that a little bit differently.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely remember you being the go-getter and wanting to get it. I remember talking with you, especially as somebody that was presenting well, articulating well. And I asked you the question, I'm like, what do you want to do in your life? Like, this isn't, stop looking for a job. Like, obviously you have to get into a company and do that. What do you want to do? And our 45-minute interview, I believe, went like an hour and 45 minutes.
It did.
And it was a conversation of, hey, what are you looking for? Do you recall that piece of it?
I remember it all. I just remember, and the way I felt was like, I gotta show him that I'm ready. Like, I feel like I was pulling everything out. Like, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. But I do remember pausing a little bit when you said, what do you want to do with your life? I remember being.
And at mid-20s, you probably don't know that.
No.
You're like, I don't know. I have no idea.
No idea. And I would have never told you that I'd be doing what I'm doing now at all. But it's in alignment with what I was doing for years. It's, the thing is that I thought that you had to have like the perfect job, the perfect career right then. And if you didn't have it, like, oh, you're going to hit 30 and it's all over.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. I remember the conversation and what I specifically remember, I knew probably 15 minutes in that you were going to be working at Ronstadt. And I specifically said, you're going to be my mentee at Wired, which is a great Women in Ronstadt Empowering Development, BRG. So helping people become executive leaders. And I specifically remember, like, you're going to be with me. Yeah. So I can make sure that I tap into everything that you do. So if we pull it in a little bit to the getting out of your comfort zone, what do you recall from when we shifted to mentee mentor? What do you recall from that time?
Oh goodness, where do we start? I think our first conversations were more so connecting me with the best people possible and me having conversations. Like, there's Jason, and then there's all of these conversations because of the network that you have built, which is amazing because I got to see, like, oh, all of these people are a subset of all of the work you have done. And there's going to be more and more and more and more. I don't think people realize how long that list went, and everyone was successful. So now I'm thinking, oh, this guy really knows what he's doing. He knows good people. And I also remember you constantly telling me that iron sharpens iron. And I started to see the iron everywhere. And I knew my trust started to build more and more. I think as time even went on, I started to tell you things that I would have never told you. I think one time I was like, Jason, here's something that's happening in my life. I would have never told you 6 months ago, but here we are now. And I also remember just not wanting to let you down too. So I think initially, like, I would filter things because I didn't want you to think I couldn't handle my day to day. And then as we started to get more vulnerable, I could open up more and get things solved quicker because I'm being honest,
Yeah.
versus, oh, well, let me not tell him this because I don't want him to think this or that. Like, I think in general, that type of relationship has to be open. It has to be all on the table because that's when you get more out of the relationship as well.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I think we talked about it a lot when we first started of we're not going to get anywhere unless we get very vulnerable.
Yeah.
And as a mentor, it's critical that you create a safe space that these folks or your mentees feel comfortable being able to share, hey, I'm concerned, or I don't feel like I'm going to be able to be good here. And it's really unpacking that. So what if we kind of unpack some of the things that made you uncomfortable? Because that's what the topic is, right? Being uncomfortable. Where were you uncomfortable along the way of our mentorship?
I think that you and I are we come from completely different lives. And also we're in two different generations, right? So I would always feel like there's no way he would ever understand something that I'm experiencing. What did help is I knew that you had young daughters. So that helped a ton. So I'm like, okay, they've got to be coming to him with all like, who knows what they come to him about every
Doesn't
day.
happen as a parent. Sorry.
So that helped me break that barrier down. But I just felt like there's no way he would know all of the things or understand all of the things that I have gone through, especially career-wise. Whether it's, oh, well, this person's inappropriate. I really need to land this account, though. What do I do? Like, what would Jason do? But then Jason's not a woman. So how would, like, these things would come up and I'd be like, well, how would he know what to do? What I didn't realize is you knew what to do because you've been in the business for so long and have seen so many different scenarios. I'm not the first person who's gone through the things that I have. And there's been so many other people, especially women, who feel comfortable to come to you and to speak with you about things. And also, you would never know because you're so discreet. Like, you're so, what I tell you will stay with you. If there's something harming you, obviously I'll say something, but everything's safe with me. But yeah, just with time, that's how I broke those things down.
That's a really good segue of, from a mentor's perspective, it has to be a vault.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember our conversation during that awful situation that you had, but I remember speaking to you vividly saying, there's not an account out there that's worth that.
Yep.
And any company that's worth their weight in gold would say, step away from that,
Yep.
Walk away. It doesn't matter. So when I think of mentees, when I think you made the comment about my children, totally get it. But I've always said this, like, as a parent, you don't know your ass from your elbow until your kids get a little bit older. And then they go, oh man, he really does. And it's a space where, from a mentor's perspective, you have to be vested in whomever you're leading. Right. I saw a really interesting quote this week that basically said, management makes me feel like they're important. Leaders make me feel like I'm important. And if you're going to lead people, you have to be vested into what they're doing and also push them out of their comfort zone in a safe space.
You know what? I also will say that goes for so many things in my life now. Even my doctor, she's like, how are you doing? What's coming up? Like, and it's crazy because now I choose the people in my life that way. My doctor, who I go to get my oil changed by. Like, I want to be around people that are interested in me, and I want to be interested in them. And that's how we create a great community of people. But these are all things that came from our mentee mentor relationship. Like, it's just like I didn't realize how much things are connected.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You not have your life and your career. I don't know. I don't think you can have it separate. I don't know if you guys feel like you can separate it. It always intersects in some way.
I learned probably at too late in my life that there is a way to separate it, but the framework and your ethics and morals and what you stand for, your why, that never changes.
Yes, that's so
So
true.
there's definitely my younger career, I didn't leave work after the work hour left, and that I regret that, and I needed to be better, and that's the whole reason why Paul and I are doing this podcast. And so, Paul, why don't you weigh in on that if you don't mind?
On separating kind of professional life and personal life. Yeah, I would. For me, I agree with that. I told a story on another podcast where I was at Disneyland with my youngest son at the time, and he was hugging me and looking up at me. And my wife, I didn't even know that because my wife took a picture of us, and so she's as great as she is. She goes, "I wanted to show you something," and she showed me a picture, and I was over here looking at my phone, and it's burned in my brain. And what I would distill it down to is time and presence. Mm-hmm. And that, for me, that's just it sounds easy, but it's not. And once I learned that, then it's become easier of, if I separate the time and my presence, meaning my focus with that person, family versus professional, that creates enough, at least for me, that creates enough separation that it's real. And the human interaction and the energy that we're giving each other, whether it's professional or family, that then becomes the separation. So that's how I've done that portion of it. And it's worked out. It's worked out well. I'd actually say, and I think we talked about it, I don't know if we talked about it in our last podcast, but Jason and I have definitely talked about it, is I've also found reverse of that, where I haven't taken my professional skill set and used it in my personal life, and it's also caused pain. So an example being people that are professionals and have learned, and just kind of sometimes our mentality is that way. We don't take the structure of our professional life and bring it over to our personal life. We think it's different, and really it shouldn't be. In fact, especially when we think of mentorship and communication, sometimes you lose that. So it's almost this, let's separate, focus. That's been helpful. And then the other portion is what from our professional life, while we're focused on that family and personal relationship, where can we use the things that we know are the right things to do, so that we're interacting in a way that really works well in the family life. So anyways, that's how I've done it. I've also, by the way, we're all professionals. So as you both were speaking, I think people will glean out things. I've made a short list, and maybe towards the end, I'll give you some themes that I thought I heard both of you talk about from just this conversation just so far. And I think it's valuable to everybody.
Yeah, I love that.
Me too. Thank you.
So DeAmber, let's unpack some things with respects to, again, mentee mentors. Mm-hmm. Tell me, you mentioned two of them, obviously me and the one you've had prior. Any other people in your life that you've had that have mentored you?
Wow, that is a great question. I would say my current mentor is my mom. And I never in a million years would think that. She is just this woman that has experienced some things in life, but has always picked herself up. And every time has gotten 10 times over what she ever lost or ever had to go through. And sometimes I just look at her, I'm like, there's just no way I could do this. Like, I cannot meet her. She doesn't have a standard for me. I just can't I'm constantly trying to reach her level, which is also, as a woman who is her daughter, just in our family life, I'm like, wow, she had 5 kids at my age. She had 5 kids already. And it was her and my dad, and they would work opposite shifts and they would make it happen. And I'm just like, what how? Like, I don't understand. But I'm proud of her, and I'm proud. She's, I will say, my second mentor that I'm extremely proud of. Obviously, you're the other mentor that I'm extremely
Mom takes number one. That's not even, I wouldn't even, yeah. No.
Mom, number 1, Jason, number 2. My previous mentor before you, I was more qualified than him. Yeah. And so the model at that company was just very weird. It could be that someone came in and they just kind of plugged that person in without any reason why.
You sparked a good question for me. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize, but you sparked a good question for me. At what point, because obviously the 21, 22-year-old DeAmber loved her mom, maybe the 16, 17-year-old DeAmber loved her mom, but didn't see her in that light.
Yes.
What caused you to have the aha moment of, holy cow, my mom is amazing?
I think it had to be, I would say, the first meeting that I had with her when I transitioned over from staffing. And there were just so many, I would say it was me, her, and then just a ton of men in the room. And they were talking about product, how we can get different clients and what spaces we were going to be in the next quarter. And everybody's like, Daphne, what do you think? Daphne, what do you think? And they're constantly like, her opinion matters so much. And when she would answer, like the consideration that she would have in her voice and in her answers, it was articulate. It was so well thought out in such a short time of them asking her a question. And I'm just sitting here looking at her and I'm like, wow, like that's a dynamic woman. And I just didn't realize, like, I knew my mom was in healthcare. I mean, she's, her trade is, she's a nurse practitioner, and then she switched over into the sales side. But I knew that was what she did for her occupation. But I must say, I was just like, and it's just what she does.
Mom, what are we having for dinner?
But people have to be able to trust you to run a business. And so I'm like, she's like, a lot of people admire and trust her, and I want those qualities in myself as well. So that was probably the moment where I'm like, okay, this lady's really good.
So I'm going to draw a similarity to my why now and where you're figuring out your why, right? So with the podcast, Paul and I've said, hey, we want to give back to your generation to say, hey, these are some of the hurdles you're going to face, and your journey is your journey, and falling down is important in your journey, and getting back up. My goal in helping you overcome your career challenges, hurdles, and headwinds. When you look at a 16-year-old now, what advice do you give them that they're going to go, okay, whatever, I know, but it's my parents and they're annoying and blah, blah, blah. What are you going to give that person as if you pay it forward? How do you help them?
Yeah, I have the answer, because I have been saying this to so many people lately. Number 1, if you have an idea, just go do it, because life is going to pass by regardless. Time goes on. So just do it. It may be the craziest idea for your future. The people around you may not agree with what you want to do. Obviously, I'm not saying to do anything bad. I'm saying a career idea, a passion, something that you kind of thought you wanted to do. Like, just delete any of the, oh, well, can I afford it? Or like, if something's meant for you, it will happen and it will figure itself out. I'm telling you guys, I left my job, my W-2 job a year ago that was 6 figures, to start a business that was ground zero. Like I was starting at zero. And a lot of people would say that that's comfortable. Like a lot of people lost their jobs last year. There's, and I also had so many mentors that even helped me get to that salary. So that's a whole nother thing. And so imagine all these people getting you there and then you leave it. Like there's a lot of pressure, but I will say that a year later, I'm so happy and I'm not stressed out. I don't have any health issues that I was having. I sleep good at night. I sleep 8 hours. So that would be the first thing that I would say. And the second thing I kind of said within that, and that's what's meant for you will never pass you by. I truly believe that. And I've had situations where something I wanted to do, I didn't do, and it still wrapped back around for me to do it because that was my destiny and what I believe God wants me to do in my life.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I definitely, especially like when it comes to faith in general, I make sure that I put that at the forefront on my next steps and things that I want to do. But yeah, I keep telling that to so many people and I feel it in my heart when I say it. Just, no one's going to be as much of an advocate for yourself as you are.
Totally agree with that.
But I will say I haven't always advocated for myself. I had to have other people.
You say you have or have not?
I have not always been. There's plenty of things that you've even told me. You would always say like, I don't think you realize, I don't know. He would always say, I don't think you realize how BA you are.
You can say badass. Go ahead. You can say badass.
You are. He would always say that. And I'd be like, I'm not. In my brain, I'm like, there's no way. Like, no, you are. Like you.
Daphne's going to be like, you just made my kid say badass. You can't be her mentor anymore.
Like I'm like PG over here. But yeah, like, and I just would be like, it took me 4 years to realize that. It took me 4 years to realize that I could walk in a room and be just as valuable as anyone else. And
so what you're saying is Jason wasn't wrong.
Jason was not wrong. Did I doubt Jason? Of course I did.
That's fine. I want to take it back though, because you made me even think of something else, right? So for all of the working moms that do hard stuff, all of the moms, period, because moms in general is the hardest job in the world. How would you be a mentor to a 16-year-old who's not in the workforce yet to understand and validate what mom truly is and does? Because as parents, we don't show our kids what we go through. So how would you do that? Because that's an important aspect here.
Oh, that is so hard. I honestly just have to think back to when I was 16. I didn't care what my mom did. Sure. I didn't care at all. I just knew that we had good food every night and we got to go on vacations in the summer. But I think that I would tell them to just start paying attention to the little things. Like, I noticed like my parents would come home stressed out sometimes. I thought they were just being mean. I just thought that was like, I have mean parents today. And I'd forget about it tomorrow and go ask them to buy me something, not even realizing like, well, where's the money coming from? It's coming from them being gone and working and being stressed out. And I think that I would just be a little bit more curious on what all my mom has to do or what all my dad has to do day to day, because I didn't know. And I constantly tell them now, I'm like, why do you guys tell me this is what the real world is?
Which they did.
They did.
We just didn't listen as kids.
No, absolutely not. No.
And I do think that there's a book to be written, or there's probably a million books that are already written. I'm trying to understand, or I'm trying to figure out if there is a way to influence that age group of kids to realize your parents do know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I had to, sorry to interrupt you, Jason. There was one thing that really helped me, and that was when my parents were going through a divorce. Someone told me, "You do realize your parents are human." And that was when I was maybe like 20. And all I was thinking about is, I've gone to college and now you guys are getting a divorce and you're breaking up the family and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's all I was thinking. And I probably said it out loud a couple of times. And it was someone, I can't remember, but they were like, your parents are humans too, you know. They're experiencing life for the first time. And I was just like, darn, that's harsh. And now I feel bad for yelling at my mom when I was sick, because that's when I was a rebel. 16. Oh yeah. I was like, you're not doing this for me and this is not going right. And I applaud my parents. They really just took it. They were just like,
it's all you can do is just keep loving. And you know, we're learning too as we go along. To your point, like there's no manual, which we've talked about before.
I wish I would have given them more grace though, especially my mom. Like, I can imagine having 2 teenage daughters, while also at that time she was just completing her nurse practitioner degree. And so she's under a lot of pressure too, still trying to build her career, still trying to be a great mom to 5 kids, doing it all for the first time. I don't know where the strength came from. But I do have that part in me where I'm like, darn, I wish I would have gave more grace, but I do better now. I applaud when my parents do amazing things. Like, it's interesting now because my mom will come to me and say, oh, guess what? Like, we've got a new partnership with this person and that person. And I'm like, oh, that's so exciting. Like, you know, and making sure I congratulate. And, because now her mom has passed on, and it's like, who's going to be there? I'm going to be there, you know, and I hope that we can continue that type of cycle and not forget that we all need each other.
Yes, 1,000,000% yes. When I go back to our conversations, and when I go back to talking about family, and there's a testament, and you actually know this. What's my one rule? If you're in my circle of mentees, what's my one rule?
You have to pay it forward.
Gotta pay it forward. And so I would look to you to go find those 16 and 17-year-olds, because you have such an amazing story that's just getting started. I remember talking to you 27, 28-ish.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait till you get to your 30s. You're going to come into this power, this superpower. You're going to find it.
It's here. I swear. I feel like the moment I turned 30, I was like, oh, first of all, this is going to be good. This is going to be okay. You don't rot away on your 30th birthday. You're good. And then there is this confidence where it's like, all right, I've seen a good bit, still got a lot more to go, but I can be impactful.
You will be impactful.
I will be impactful.
And note to all the leaders and mentors out there, sometimes all people need is a little nudge of confidence.
Yes, so true.
Goes a long way.
And need is such a good word. I needed a Jason in my life. I couldn't have done it without you, especially in the 3 years where I really needed you to help me navigate difficult conversations, how to start going after bigger clients. Like, I needed that push. I wish I could really dive deep into like what that push meant to me. It's just, I can't articulate it. It's a heart thing. It's like someone cared enough about me. And I want to reiterate, Jason doesn't get anything out of what I do. He doesn't get paid. He wasn't
Disagree.
Getting paid for.
Has nothing to do with money.
But I'm telling you that based on the mentor I had before, who made it seem like, oh, I'm going to have your back and be there. But
way back.
Yeah. We don't work together anymore in that setting. And I still am inspired by you every day. I know I can call you. I know that it doesn't have to be about career stuff. I can call to check on you. mostly it's you checking on me and making sure I'm good. And I've never, ever, 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 ever had anyone to care that much that wasn't family to do that for me. And I appreciate you. It's amazing. And I'm constantly talking about you because I want people to know that there's a Jason out there for them, and that it doesn't have to be someone that has the same background as you or life experience as you, that you can still learn so much from someone.
How do corporations start that?
Ooh, that's a great one. I feel like I had an old coworker. You remember Jeff, right? Jeff Yamada. And we sat down and wrote this mentorship model. And we're like, we're going to present this to our team. This is going to be great. But I will say that not everyone wants to be mentored.
It's true.
And that was a hard truth that I had to face. And we're all pumped up about how people's careers could go so far because they had someone at their side the entire time. I think that when you have impactful conversations and you're intentional with every person that you talk to, that you'll naturally find a mentor.
Why do you think people didn't want to be mentored?
I think that a lot of people may have already knew that they didn't want to do that for their career forever. And so they felt as though, oh, well, I'm not doing this forever, so why do I need this?
But is mentorship always about career?
It's not. It's
so
not.
So going back to that question, why do you think people don't want to be mentored?
Oh, you're cornering me.
No, I'm asking you questions. Just being curious.
This is a great
I know what I think.
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you think. And also Paul.
Yeah, I believe that a lot of folks don't want to be held accountable.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's not a boss thing. It's not like you don't report to me. Mm-hmm. But nobody likes to look inward to say, man, this is an area that I'm not good at, and I just want to shove it in the closet and not talk about it. Yep. So that's a little bit of my theory. Paul, why don't you give us yours?
I mean, it's very simple. It's ego. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but in my 20s, I pretty much knew everything. And now I don't know anything. So that was for me. The answer is just, it was, and not in a bad way to a point, but it was just, I'm going to figure it out. I can figure it out, etc. Whereas, and I'm going to do at the end here, I'm excited to run through my show notes here. And I think it'll be a new theme depending on our call. This was a great one to do it on, but that was it. It was just ego is the enemy for me. It was, if you're not open to it, if you're not being intentional to what, DeAmber just said, I mean, that's on the mentee side, that's the miss, right? The mentor side, you also have to have this altruistic approach. So there's that element too of where it can become truly a connection, which is what you both have, right? And that's what we want for everybody that's listening.
Love that.
That's so true. And the ego got in my way too. I mean, like I said, it just came with like, why should I trust this guy? like who is he? Like the thoughts that just like come up, and I can't explain. It's like sometimes I want to make someone, I want to be like, you need a mentor and this is why, but there's also this part where it's like you just fall into it somehow. I don't know what
it's the people that are woven into your life because they're curious. And I believe I'm starting to understand a little bit more from a corporate perspective since I've moved over and I'm a little bit into talent development and really diving into being human. We have tools now that we can run through from an assessment perspective that'll tell you who are the folks that you need to have mentor. And it could be somebody that you wouldn't even think about. It doesn't have to be a leader. I've seen people at the lowest level that are amazing leaders because they care about people. Mm-hmm. It's about being human and genuinely interested into somebody to say, I'm a place that you can come and talk about anything with, and I'm going to give you my honest opinion might not like it all the time. That's okay. And at the end of the day, we agree to go on being human. But you know that I'm coming in with good intent.
Exactly. And I also wanted to make sure that we pointed out how the relationship can be beneficial for both the mentor and the mentee. It goes both ways.
Well, you made a comment that I don't get paid, or there's nothing that I get out of this. This fills my cup almost as much as winning a big deal, because I know that I'm helping people become better humans and helping people overcoming head trash and overcoming imposter syndrome and all of the things that just stifle people's creativity and badassery, right?
Yep.
That's who you are. That's what I told you from the get-go. You got to believe that, because you've got that confidence about you. It's just, oh, what are they saying? Or what are they saying? Or what are they saying?
Yes. It was
Who
always.
cares? Who cares? Are you operating under good intent? Yeah. Are you leading with human attributes? Yeah. Then great. That's it.
Yep. It's so true.
I want you to talk about some of those notes. Go ahead, Amber. Go ahead.
No, I was just to sum it up. Equal business stature. You used to talk about that all the time. Obviously,
that's a Sandler one. That's a Sandler 101.
Yeah, but it goes not just with your client relationships. It's who all the relationships in your life. You got to have the equal.
Are you a life giver or are you a life taker?
Mm-hmm, exactly. You've got to know.
Agreed.
If you're a taker, maybe you should start giving a little bit more.
Agreed.
Amazing.
Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you. What's up, bud?
Yeah. All right. Look, I'm hoping this resonates, and I'll clean it up, but I'm going to do my best summary. So check it out. So this is what I heard as mostly a listener on this episode, which I loved. Mentorships. I'll start here. Couple different categories. So number one on the mentees from DeAmber is multiple mentorships. Seek them out. Be open. Be intentional. You may need a mentor in different categories around your mindset, professional, career, specific within your industry, and it changes over time. So that's key number one. For the mentors and mentee, intent, that's number one. Be open. The foundation must be on trust and that openness. For the mentor, you must be wanting the best for that whole person. Otherwise, don't be that mentor. And then within mentorships, again, this is what I heard. I'm going to put it in my own words, but I hope it resonates, which is why mentorships are so important, especially from what you shared, DeAmber, is really around modeling and patterns. And so it's being able to recognize patterns, like what Jason had created within Randstad and with his own network. You recognize that pattern. Then you were able to use that pattern in your own life and your business around how do you go and do that same version for yourself and others. And then where you become a mentor is where you can go and create patterns and help other people. And that's what we hope for everybody on that's listening and beyond. And then some big themes coming out, and this is the last portion of it. Within sales, it's not about selling, it's about solving. And the purpose is the driver. So make sure you hone in on that no matter what the thing you're doing if you're in sales. Imposter syndrome and motivation. You're enough as you are. Life is short. Make sure you take that leap. And what's meant for you will find you on your journey anyways. And then within parents and others is a reminder for everybody, including me, is everybody's going through this life for the first time. So give them grace. And especially with the story of your mom, DeAmber, is how could they do it all? Well, it almost is a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you do, the more you can do, just like she did. 5 kids, nursing, entrepreneurship, and all the things. So that's my summary, and hopefully some show notes that I could send out to everybody, and we'll attach it too.
I mean, that was perfect. That was perfect.
It was.
Yeah. So I think as we're getting ready to close, DeAmber, heartfelt thank you for sharing, for being vulnerable, and for more importantly, just being yourself. You are an amazing human being. You're crushing the world right now, and I know that you're going to continue to do it.
Thank you, Jason. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to have you, Jason. You're going to be my lifelong friend. Um, it's just incredible. This podcast in general has been so fun to be on. I can talk literally all day, especially about just navigating, navigating in general. So I'm just happy I was able to share my thoughts with you guys today. I'm not going to cry, so that's what I'm trying not to do.
It's quite all right. We love tears. I'm going to wrap it up with this, and it really just came onto my heart. Like, in a world of AI and technology, and I don't want to say fakeness, but in a world of transactional, go back to being a good human being.
Yes.
Go back to realize that people have feelings. Go back to realize that sometimes you just have to sit in the mud with somebody, and piling mud on top of them is just going to bury somebody. If that makes you feel good, you're not a good human. Yeah. I appreciate you all so much. Thanks for listening. Thanks for following. Looking forward to the next episode. And DeAmber, as always, be well, my friend.
Yeah. Be well. Thank you so much, Jason. Thank you, Paul.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining.